Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Steve Rasner. And if you're watching this tonight, it means you very shortly are going to be coming live to Vineland, New Jersey, to the Rasner Institute, and you and I are going to be doing live surgical implant dentistry for 2 days. The purpose of these modules is to get you a little bit familiar with the kits as they come out, so you don't have to learn it all on your own, every detail on the fly when you get here. So again, we're going to be going over the concepts that are in here. I do know that this might remind you of when you went to dental school and you looked at that kit that they put out for us and you thought to yourself what I thought: how am I ever going to know and use everything in this kit? And the answer is you're not. You're going to just learn some of it. In fact, your dental surgical assistant is the one that's really going to become familiar with this kit. You'll work in collaboration with each other, so that's how these surgeries go down. A good surgical assistant can anticipate your next move before you ask for it. So that's what we're going to do in just a few short minutes. I just want you, when you open this in a few weeks, to just get a feel. Don't worry about memorizing anything I tell you right now, okay? The first thing I want you to notice is to my right are surgical gloves. So every institute that you would go to has its own philosophy of treatment. I was trained by the Mish Institute. When I went to the Mish Institute, every aspect of your room had to be surgically ready, like in an operating room. And I have found over 25 years of placing implants that that's not always necessary. However, this is my approach. I use the same gloves that you have for your general dentistry until I am ready to open this box. At that point, I will then scrub, put on surgical gloves along with my dental assistant, and for good reasons, as you're going to see in just a few minutes. Okay, this is what I want you to get from this. I'm going to take you through what you would be using on an average implant. Okay, the very first thing you're always going to use is there's a round burr. I think it's like a number 6 or 8. It's this number 6 in this kit right here. And with that, what you're going to do is make by the way, we're talking pretty much freehand right now, but the same principles apply when we're doing guided. Certainly when you're going freehand, you want a very clear divot to make 1 or 2 millimeters in the bone that you're going to follow with the succeeding drills. So round burr, 1 or 2 millimeters. Next drill will always be, by the way, this is a BioHorizons surgical kit. Every implant manufacturer has their own kit, and guess what? They're almost all the same. They may tout that theirs is better than another, but I'm telling you, from 25 years and using many, many different manufacturers, they pretty much have the same approach as they would have to. The second key drill you're going to use is called a pilot drill, and it's 2.0 millimeters in diameter. It's up here in this kit on the right corner. Now that's a key drill because that's the first time you were drilling to the approximate depth of the implant you want to end up with. So you will see when you get to my institute that these drills are marked off from 7.5 millimeters to 18 millimeters. And you'll almost never use either one of those. Rarely will you use a 7.5 millimeter implant, and even more rare will you ever use an 18 millimeter implant. You're going to use something, what you're going to use most of the time are going to be 10.5 millimeters long or 12 millimeters long. That is going to be your workhorse, those two implant lengths. Okay, so in the BioHorizons kit, you use the round burr, followed by the pilot drill. So this part of the kit are called directional indicators, and are very important, particularly in freehand implant dentistry. This is why. After you use the 2.0 pilot drill, these directional indicators have a thick end and a thin end. You're always going to place the thin end in the osteotomy you just drilled with the 2.0. And you're going to step back and you're going to look at it from different angles with a mirror to make sure you're on the right path, because you can still change the path at this stage of your implant placement. So that's what these are for. After the 2.0, you're going to go to the 2.5. It's very important you follow me right now. One drill was a round drill. Pilot drill was 2.0. Now we're 2.5. And if we didn't like how the directional indicator looked, we can change it a little bit. So if your angle was a little distal, you can still correct that with the 2.5. Okay. After you use the 2.5, if it's free-handed, I want you to look again. And I want you to put the larger end of the directional indicator in your osteotomy now. Because if you put the skinny end in after the 2.5, it'll move around. And look again and say, are you where you want to be? It would not be a wrong move, especially in the beginning of your implant journey, to, if you're not sure, then do it. Meaning take an x-ray. Like let's say you're placing a lateral incisor, number 7, and on the x-ray, you don't have an enormous amount of space between 6 and 8. It's going to happen. Eventually, that exact scenario is going to happen to you. So this is the perfect time to look at a quick x-ray. Am I where I want to be? Because you can correct it. Okay. The next drill depends on what type of implant you're going to place, what diameter implant you're going to place. So let's go back to the example of the lateral incisor. That's usually going to be a 3.4, and you're going to know this. You're just going to get to the point that you'll know in a lateral incisor, you're not going to generally use a 3.8 or 4.2 diameter, because it would impact your prosthetic outcomes in a negative way. You don't want the implant to be much wider than the actual tooth was. Make sense? Okay. So in that case, you would then go to a third drill, and BioHorizons color codes its implant drills. So their 3.4 is purple. I don't think you can see it, but again, you don't have to memorize this. I guess what I'm trying to get you to know right now is we've used 3 drills if it was a 3.4. If it was a 3.8, then it's one more drill. You would skip the 3.4. You would use the round, the pilot, the 2.5, and then the 3.8. And then so forth. If you can see on this photograph right now, if you want to do a 4.2, and it's all color-coded, so it's very easy for you to follow. You would follow the same sequence exactly that I just demonstrated, but then you would go, there's 2 green drills. One's for 4.2, one is for 4.6. If it was going to be a 4.2, you would stop and only use the first drill that's indicated by green. And so forth. I mean, BioHorizons has, as most implant companies, a series of both different lengths. The lengths will range from 7.5 to 18 millimeters. And the widths will range from 3.0 to 5.6. That would be for a molar. And you're always going to follow this pattern. This is going to be 80% of what you use. The drills in the first column and the directional indicators. I don't even want to bore you. I'm just going to give you a couple more elements of this kit. Over here on the left is a, I don't even know what this is for. And you don't have to edit this, Steve, because they're used to me talking like that. I use this, I guess it's marked for depth. I use it to make sure that I haven't perfed in a free-handed dentistry, not a guide, that I haven't perfed somewhere, that I can feel solid bone when I put this in the osteotomy. That's what this is. And this is a ratchet. Very often when you place an implant, you won't be quite as deep as you want to be in the bone site. In other words, your implant drill, and by the way, that's what drives this. You'll need an implant motor. And it doesn't matter which one you buy. The W&H has a great motor. BioHorizons has their own motor. Glidewell has their own motors. It doesn't matter. Like, you have to research it, talk to your rep, and see what works. They're all pretty expensive, and they're all set up a little bit differently, but they all drive an implant in at 35 Newton centimeters. So sometimes what's happening when you're drilling the implant in is it stops short of where you want it to go. Well, guess what? You're going to pick up your ratchet. You're going to place that in, and that goes on top of your implant. And you literally will ratchet it clockwise and watch it go down. Again, I don't want you to be intimidated or overwhelmed by this. I just wanted you to get a feel. Down here in the bottom two columns is these attached to the tops of your implant, and one of these goes directly into the implant, and the other is indicated if you left the abutment that the implant came with. Again, this feels a little overwhelming right now, but I'm going to make it very clear to you, and you will not be overwhelmed by this. And this is just a hex driver that every implant kit has for putting on cover screws, for putting in healing caps. Since you asked me, these drills down here, they'll look real prominent and kind of have big threads, you'll almost never use. These are to, if you have very dense bone, like a type 1 density in the anterior mandible, sometimes you'll drill your osteotomy, and to make it a little bit less dense, in other words, you would put, when you went to place your implant, even though you drilled the osteotomy properly, your implant may get stuck halfway down and not go all the way to the top of the crest. By the way, generally, we could spend an hour just talking about, well, where do you want your implant to stop? The top of the platform of your implant. Do you want it above the bone? Do you want it below the bone at the same level? And I will tell you that that approach has changed greatly over the last 10 years. Today, most clinicians are placing implants slightly under the crest of the bone. So a millimeter under. Very few people place above supracrestally. But the point of these, which I can't even remember their names, and I'm fine with that, is if you went in with an implant that didn't go down very far, you would use one of these drills that corresponds to your final width of the drills you already used at a lower speed, and it makes it easier to go back down now and have your implant go to the desired level that you wanted. So again, don't get overwhelmed. This is the kit, and when I get here, I'll make sure that my assistant or myself is going to be handing you each instrument as you need it. See you in a couple weeks.